Okay, and I'm back. Unfortunately, the audio from Pro Tools didn't record on the last one, so I don't know if I'll end up sharing that with anyone. But basically, it was a not so exciting look into just how I decided to structure this session. And me explaining some of the common things that I like to do at the very beginning. I don't really want to go over all of that stuff again. It's pretty straightforward though. You know, set up your buses, set up buses that you think you're going to want. You want to have your effect sends. I explained a little bit about why I have a master and a mixed bus, which we can kind of like come back to at a certain point. But I had to redo my master bus because it was being uncooperative, which is part of why it didn't record the audio from Pro Tools on the last one. So that gives us an opportunity to, set up some of this stuff again. I could be a little bit more in depth about that, I guess. So on the master bus, I'm going to put some very basic metering just so that I can tell how loud everything is. And so that I can have like a frequency analyzer and things like that. Because those are helpful. You know, I'll reiterate again that it looks like I have a lot of plugins, and I do, because I share licenses with a really good friend of mine who also mixes and stuff. So you don't need to have like 1.5 million plugins. You probably will get them at some point, but it's not like a requirement or anything like that. And if you can find someone to share with, even better. Okay, what did I put on here? Okay, cool. On my mix bus, I had sort of mentioned how I didn't think I'm gonna mix into a compressor on this one because it seems pretty chill. So I think we can leave that there. Maybe on the next one I do, I can sort of talk again about my little philosophy with that. But on the mix bus, I will put some interesting, helpful plugins that are totally not, get the fuck out of there. They're totally not necessary. But you know, they can be helpful. This one, Mix Checker Plus or Mix Checker Pro, it's not the like most crazy thing. It basically just makes it, you select one of the, I'll fucking play it. It's to like give yourself a easy kind of shortcut way to simulate a bunch of different ways people listen to stuff. So let's go with disco at the pool. White headphones, your little Apple headphones, probably not your AirPods. Oh, 15-inch screen laptop. A passenger, you're in a sedan. It's, you know, this is a phone speaker. It's not gonna give you any gospel, but you know, it can be helpful to just sort of check, hey, do all my elements sort of, are they all present even under less than ideal circumstances? You know, again, you don't have to go too crazy, and it's just, that's, I don't know. It's a fun one. I usually will do it to check to make sure that my bass is audible, would be audible even on like less than stellar playback systems. Just because, yeah, you know, a lot of people are just listening on their phone and stuff, and it's all those elements still need to be present. And then, oh, I don't remember if I still have the other one. Oops, that is not what I meant to do. Yeah, disconnected. I do not have RX on right now. Maybe I do not. Perhaps I do not. Would be called reference, I believe. It's kind of cool one. Yeah, it's not going to be in there. Oh well, what? What are you gonna do? Never mind, I won't talk about that one then. Then I don't think it's like the most important thing in the world. But sometimes, oh, get out of here. I do use this NX, which is basically supposed to be like a room simulator. I don't use it for that so much. I just sometimes will. They have these nice EQ curves that you can apply to kind of correct, quote unquote, your headphone mix. So I have the, what are these things called? The HD 280 Pros. I know that they're there somewhere. What? Are they not anymore? No. No. Okay, this is... What? Maybe I've just fully gone insane. I used to have it. Oh. Cool. Well, I didn't rely on it that much, so we're not going to worry about it. Never mind. Cool, so now that we're all set up, let's just take a listen. See kind of where we're at level-wise. I think probably we'll want to end up normalizing some of this stuff because it was recorded on the Trident. Yeah, it's pretty quiet, but that means we have lots of headroom. Headroom's good. So let's ignore all that other nonsense that I started yapping about. And get over to... Oh, wait, no. Not that. I'm being very silly. I'm tired. Normalize. And let's go... I think the Dana trick is good. I'm a fan. Yeah, 70 sounds good. Boom. Actually, I forget. Does it play nice when you do that? Yeah, it does. Cool. Then let's go ahead and select them all. Except for not the 3 that I did. Please, thank you. Okay, maybe not. Alrighty. This is sort of where it would be nice to have not quite the trackball, because I feel like I can be a little bit more precise, but that's okay. For fuck's sake, I am wasting my time. There we go. Should have just done that in the first place. Do we get any more level? Does it look like? Do we get to play around with some more level? Depends. Cool, I think I'm happy with that. I think that's pretty workable. All right. Let's take a listen to an exciting part. And we can get started on these drums. Let's take a listen to this kick. It's getting a little buried by everything. It's also pretty, the fader's pretty far down from the session, so let's just take a look and take a listen. Well, I know I'm going to want it up anyways, so let's bring it up. Okay. So D112 probably on the outside. That's actually got a fair amount of workable click sound. More than I would normally expect. That's good. That makes things a little bit easier. Cool. Let's there. That's a little bit more present. Don't smash it. Let's play around in here. See what's up. So there's like a lot of different schools of thought as to whether it makes sense to EQ when stuff is soloed or whether to do it in the mix. I like to solo to kind of just hear how the stuff sounds so I know what I'm working with. So that I'm not trying to, plaster the mix and try to get a bunch of frequencies that aren't actually present in the recording. But I typically will also, if there's some kind of like corrective thing I need to do, I will typically do that in solo just because it's easier to just kind of pull it out when you're only listening to it. And then if you put it back in the mix and the problem's not solved, then you gotta do something else. But one of the things that's cool, I think there's Pro Q3 or 4 at the workstations at the college, but if you do have access to it or you do buy it or something, there is this kind of nifty thing you can do, since it does have a spectrum analyzer built into it. You can, if you want to, and I'm just going to kind of set this up so you can see it, because the interplay between the bass and the kick drum is often very important. You can set the analyzer to monitor any other instance of Pro Q. So in this case, I can do bass, which means when it plays, we should, yeah, you can see that this spectrum analyzer pops up so you can compare kind of where you're at. And this is kind of fun that we have a nice little bump over here that the bass is not really doing much in, which means we already have a nice little bit of separation between the two. So that's nice. That's a fun, cool little trick, especially if you're having trouble with getting those two to balance out. I am going to not use Pro Q3 though, not at least on the kick, because I am going to, hey, come on, guess my computer's running a little slow, probably because I'm recording all this at the same time. Jeez. I'll pull up a different EQ. I'm gonna pull up, I don't know. Why not the SSL EQ? I'll list this in context again. This kick drum drives the track. Not fully. Not the same way the guitar does. Take that here. Yeah, I think it could use a little bit more power. So I'm going to filter out just a little bit of the gunk down there, not too much. And, I don't know, let's give it a little boost. Around 80. See if we can get some of that low edge coming. Okay. And now let's just be checking what you're doing. Bypass it, put it out, put it in, put it out, put it in. Make sure what you're doing actually sounds better, because that's the whole point. little bit more of that beater, which is usually somewhere around 2,000, 3,000. Kind of higher up here. That's when all the way cranked up. I don't need to do all of that, but maybe just kind of a generalized boost right around there so that we can get some of that. There'll be other things we can do to get this to stand out. Yeah, it's kind of aggressive actually. Let's pull it down a bit. If I can get some clarity by, I think I usually take out a little bit at around 200 on kick drums, and it will sound a little bit more clear. Because that's what you're hearing, or you're going to be taking out. So let's see. Yeah, kick drum's done. Let's loop this spot for a little bit, because that seems to be pretty consistent. Nice. Bigger, louder, a little bit more control, a little bit more present. I want to add more of that. Okay. That's like a pretty good set of things, I think, to do for most kick drums. And it just depends on the style and everything like that. We can also, here, let's take a listen, see what the difference is while it's, soloed. There it goes. Now, I still want it to hit a little bit harder, but I'm not just trying to boost it to just be louder. So we're going to do one of my favorite things to do on drums, which is use this API bus compressor on it to make it really snappy. Most of my experience with audio and music mixing is with metal and hip hop and kind of R&B stuff. And all of those genres tend to benefit from really snappy drums, and I kind of always think that the drums could be a little bit snappier, which I'll do a very exaggerated example of what I'm talking about. And this is just my favorite compressor because I think it just makes things sound so snappy. Let's solo this because it can be a little bit, I'm not going to be subtle with it, but let's do it so we can hear. Okay, first things for the sake of example, let's get this to really crank. Yeah. Look at that, minus 12 decibels. That's crazy. We're probably not going to end up doing that. Here. Super dramatic. What I like to do with this to make it snappier, the idea behind it is essentially you are going to have the compressor kick in with a relatively slow attack to let the transient come in essentially at full volume, and then it'll clamp down, which will just make that attack really stand out. And this is also a very good way if you're still getting used to feeling out what compressors do and how they're sounding. Just fucking crank the knobs and make it work really hard, and then dial it back to to wherever you actually want it. So this is with an incredibly fast attack. You can see it's kind of clamping down on everything. Now let's do all the way to the other end. Yeah. And let's make it even snappier. Take down that release. Ooh. How snappy do you want to get? this is what I might do for like a pretty thumping track. Let's see how it sounds in context. I think I like it pretty aggressive. I think I do. You could also play around with some of these settings that will make it hit differently. That's really aggressive. That's pretty subtle difference between that, but it does give you a little bit more of a high. I don't think it's that great. Quick release is nice on those kinds of parts too, where you hear that so that the so your compressor is clear and out of the way of the next hit, because sometimes a lot of those quick hits, when you have a very slow release, your compressor will still be engaged when the next transient comes in, and it won't be getting that full attack and release cycle that you want it to be going through. Great. I'm happy with that, for now at least. Great. Next thing I want to do is, I think I'm actually going to probably treat. This is not something you'd necessarily super have to do. Again, lots of different theories on that. I'm just going to go ahead and throw the SSL on the rest of the drums. Just so that it's like, at least at least everything is sort of in the same, getting processed by the same thing. So it might add a little bit of clarity and cohesiveness to the overall sound. I think maybe we're talking about like a 0.5% amount of perceptibility in the overall mix, but all of these things sort of add up into a larger picture. So let's go ahead and take this. Okay, not a lot of high end on this one, which makes sense. It's the top. The chains, the snare itself is below. I can probably take a little bit of this low end stuff out. Do I like that tone? Yeah, I think I will. Okay. Then, perfect example of, let's solo and try to get that tone out. Let's make it easy for ourselves. And we'll use a different EQ so that we're not using our limited amount of knobs, which we can actually use for a little bit more tone sculpting. And this is more corrective. Ooh, I'll bet you it's that thing right there. Yep. Which, when you're using something like this, to pay attention to how much gain you are applying or taking away with these bands. The reason is just because if you aren't paying attention, and like, yeah, let's get, whoa, buddy, no, Please do the opposite of what you're doing. All right. Uh, and you kind of boost something up like 30 dBs like this. This is a great example. You'll still be able to find stuff, but pretty much everything doesn't sound good when a single or very narrow band of frequencies is boosted up 30 dB. So just as you're trying to find stuff, be cognizant of how much gain and stuff you're applying. So yeah, that was what? This was our little guy, right? Yeah, I don't think we need to take it all the way out. It's part of the sound, but it would be kind of nice if it wasn't fully there. Let's make sure. Yeah, I'm not gonna worry about that. That seems nice. I probably didn't need to pull out a whole other EQ for that, but probably some boosting the fuck out of it up there. Yeah, there we go. And that gives me room to do what I want to do a little bit more, which is boost a little bit of this low. Let's take this up a little bit. I have changed my mind, having listened to this a little bit more. I don't think I want to boost the low. I think I might want a kind of quick and tight snare sound. Yeah. Okay, that's shaping out a little bit more how I want it. Less about you, actually. Session is zero there. I can come back if I want to do a little bit more sculpting. What happens if I take a little bit out of you, sir? I think that could be alright. Oh wait, do you have a bunch of your nonsense in there too? Probably. It's the same snare. Oh, what was that? I was like 400 or something. Yeah, okay. It was pretty close. 365. Yeah, let's go ahead. Get 360, whatever. Yeah. I think that's that other harmonic right there too, probably around 600, 500. Oh. Huh. Thought I heard that. Must be playing tricks on my brain. Oh, you know what? I'm probably hearing it also. It's the room sound and all of that stuff too. Oh, we'll get there. Because these are sounding nice and tight, or tighter. I think I'll probably end up coming back to them. But now let's do the snaporama on it. Because guess what? If you're gonna have a tight sounding snare, you might as well make it snap. There's very rare, I think I mentioned it, but I'm not someone who typically doesn't want things to be snappier in the drums. Dang. Yikes. There we go. Okay, do the same thing. Yeah. Snap. That doesn't feel long. And we don't need to go back. Cool. Let's stick with that for now. More will definitely happen with the snare sound, but let's stick with that for now. Mr. Hi-Hat. I'm not going to spend that much time on you because I have a feeling that you sound fine. Mixing, obviously, to audience perspective. Hey, play that shit again. It's kind of a lot in there. Well, actually, let's see. That's why you might solo it. What is in there? What's the a lot I'm thinking of? Okay, nothing's coming in there. That's definitely part of it, isn't it? That's some of the a lot that I'm hearing kind of in that mid-ranginess. But when it comes down to the actual hi-hat itself, there's not that much going on. Alright. If anything, I'm going to just kind of get some of that gunk out. Actually, this is a good opportunity to use. There's never a bad opportunity to use ProQ, but good opportunity to take a look at what is all up in here. Pretty clean. There is kind of all of this stuff in here, which is not really adding much to anything, but it is still outputting and playing through the mix, so you can get away, pretty easily with some very aggressive filtering on these kinds of higher end instruments. Higher end, obviously, in frequency content, just because, all this stuff is, it's not why we're listening to the hi-hat. You can't take it all the way out, like, you probably want a little bit of that air, But it depends, too. I think you typically will leave a little bit more if there's a lot more, like, open hi-hatty stuff going on. But, or just, it depends on how the thing sounds. Let's take that down a little bit. That's not something you end up having to spend too much time on. Maybe I do want it to tighten up a little bit. don't know if I'm gonna worry about it that much, but let's just try this little thing. Transient shaper. Transient shapers are cool. They're a dynamics processor. Basically, you can use it to change the envelope of a sound, basically, and it focuses on the attack and sustain. But you can, blast it. That's it with all the attack all the way up. We're talking about the attack of the sound. Take it all the way up. But the reason I'm pulling it up is less the attack and more the sustain. These are nifty little tools. Just kind of trying to get a little bit more separation between each of those hits. I think that's a little bit. We'll revisit that. It's maybe marginally better, or maybe I just like it better because it's different than it was. Cool. Now, stuff like toms, let's go ahead and look through and make sure we can actually find something. Man, I normalized this, but this was barely anything. Is that because they're not really played? Okay, yeah. Not a whole lot going on there. Still important, though. Let's you. We did 70. Let's do 80. Okay, these will probably have to come down after that, but let's see. Ooh. Yeah, there we go. With that little section here. I don't think there's a tremendous amount I want to do. Maybe just get a little bit more of that. That attack. Again, snap. Doesn't have to go that crazy. Oh. What if I took that out? I was kind of just boosting the C. See, the only way you're going to know is to listen to the whole thing. We can also probably, there's a lot of other shit in this track right now. Let's maybe throw a gate up on this, and maybe we can get rid of some of that. okay, it doesn't sound like we're getting rid of anything. I'm okay with a little bit of hits coming through. Yeah, we can go ahead and throw. What? When the fuck did I do that? Oh, I probably didn't. That's why. Oh, that's probably why it sounded a little nicer. What is that? A little boosted around 350? Pretty wide boost. Is that the opposite of what I did? Feels very similar. Yeah, essentially. I think I'm a little bit higher up, closer to 500. And I'll bet you, if I had to guess, that same clickiness that I'm always after, the snap, is going to be somewhere around here. Same deal. You really don't need all of that. Ooh, hey. 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 Quit acting like that. There we go. Okay, that attack just to make it a little bit less stop-starty. I don't think it'll really be that perceptible, but just in case. I kind of wish I had a little bit more click with you. What if we did go a little crazy? So these were all sending to something parallel. This was originally a parallel process as opposed to just a straight ahead group bus. Do I think I want to parallel process these? I don't think it can hurt. At least can't hurt to try. Let's throw something up. Okay, put you to the mix bus. I'm gonna try and get away with not renaming, so hopefully I'm not adding too many more buses. But we'll see. Let's take all these shells over here, change you from drums to 1 and 2. Oh, definitely labeling you. And then we can decide how subtle do we want to be. I think for the sake of fun and for the sake of trying it, let's be extremely unsubtle. And what the hell is that thing called again? Oh yeah. The CLA 76. What if we... Oh, I remember. This was something I covered. Hey, quit that. Cut that shit out. Something I covered in the bit that the audio got lost on. I had decided to treat it as a parallel thingy in the beginning, but now I just made a new bus, so we're gonna bus my drums the regular way that I usually do. For fuck's sake. Okay, I might need to make a few upgrades to do these recordings a little bit more easily. But that's okay. It's working fine for now. of the fun things you can do when you parallel compress stuff is you don't really have to be that subtle because you're just going to blend it in. So what if we are very unsubtle? Hola! That's fucking something. Really fucking smashed it. Let's also bring expectations back to reality for a second here. Let's kind of match the gain. There we go. When everything gets louder, you could go, oh my god, that sounds so crazy, that's so different, that's so better. But really what you're just hearing is the ability to hear something more clearly, and it's not always necessarily what's serving the mix. I don't hate it like that at all, actually. This could be big drums. What? What if we did this? Again, just matching the gain. So that I'm not tricking myself. Sneaky, sneaky, it's always creeping back up there. I mean, that's pretty beefy. That's pretty cool. Let me try it again without everything changed there. The whole mode. Okay, as tempting as it is to go with the all mode, I'm not sure that's exactly the vibe of this tune. Again, hip-hop, metal, rock and roll. All of those things, if you can make the drums sound bigger, you basically make them sound bigger. But this might not exactly be that case. Or at least, I don't think they need to sound that fucking big. Oh, I'm really fucking cranking it on that one. Sick. Which, by the way, let's just crank it up if you want to hear the difference. Yeah, I like it. I like it. It actually, I like actually having a little bit of that room sound in there too. A little bit more from the other ones. Foot check, mix bus. Yeah, we're still in the realm of what we like. Okay. Typically, if you're going to apply a lot of compression to the drums and stuff like that, you might not send the hi-hat in there too. I think when you're doing that kind of super heavy compression, it can be nice to just send everything down there. Oh, fuck. Alright, well. Ignore my messy desktop and ignore the fact that I have a default wallpaper. This is a perfect time to take a break because my computer is funky, and when this happens, I actually can't re-maximize Pro Tools and look at it again. So this is a perfect time for a break, and we'll come back about drum compression, bus compression stuff, why you might do things one way or the other way. Hey, this is the software I'm using to record. All right.